Hare Krishna, everyone. Thanks for coming if you came. Today is Ekadasi. I'm feeling very empowered and I'm working tonight, which means, and I do all my job when I'm working. It's a driving job. Anyway, so I have all this free time and I want to spend it in association with the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam. I was just reading the Bhagavatam on this little Kindle here. I have the entire 12, at least 10 cantos, but probably all 12 on one file on this thing. And I'm 19% through, which is Canto 3, Chapter 5. I just finished, I think. I'm going really fast through it. I just want to finish it once and I'll be happy. So, continuing where we left off last time, I would like to just read from the Gita from the beginning and just basically get through the whole Gita again because that's really all I want to do. And so this may be boring for you, and sorry about that, but I am just going to do that anyway. And then if there are people who come and chat, or maybe I might plan like a special Gita class over a specific topic, then I can do that separately. But so I might have two. It looks like now there's two paths that this live stream is going down. One is the regular reading, starting now from the beginning all the way to the end. And then the other kind of live stream I'll do is a specific topic in mind, something practical. And I'll try for that second path, I'm going to try and get people to join and participate. For this one, no pressure. I'm mostly doing this for myself because I just want to read the Gita. And looks like my voice is a lot better. And, looks like COVID is mostly gone from my system. COVID Omicron or whatever the hell it was. I don't care. Okay, so I'm going to follow my own reading guide, and we're going to start with chapter 1, verse 26. And I'm just going to read right out of this book here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was thinking about just doing that mantra once instead of 3 times, but 3 is a very special number. It's my favorite number, and it actually works really well because the first time you do the mantra, when you're paying attention to your own state of mind, you probably will notice it's not totally clean. You're just kind of saying it because it's there, or maybe you're saying it, maybe you're nervous and you're focusing more on just pronouncing it properly, something like that. The second time you get it a little better, and then by the third time, you're in like this what's it called? Not muscle memory, not routine, but it's like you know where you're at and where you're going. And so the final third chanting is it's like the third time's the charm, basically. That's all it is. I do the same thing with judo when I do practice throws with my opponents. This is how I was trained. It's not just my speculation or anything, but you do like one practice and then you see where you're at with the spacing and the timing, and then you do the second one, and if it's a little bit better, then you're all set to just throw on the third. Same with this. It's a really short mantra too, so I feel like it's completely stingy to just only say it once. Unless you're in a rush, then it's actually totally fine. Because it's actually totally fine to not even say the mantra at all and just start reading the Gita, which is exactly what I did when I first found the Gita, and I achieved lots of advancement very quickly by just treating this sincerely as an innocent and curious and very humble person when I first read the Gita. That's where I was at. So it worked really well. Chapter 1, verse 26. Jumping right to 29. There Arjuna could see, within the midst of the armies of both parties, his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his father-in-law and well-wishers, all present there. Small purport there, which we can skip. This is all self-explanatory. But it is nice. I mean, I think you'll see why I chose to start on 126 instead of somewhere in chapter 2. Because you do need this backdrop of where the whole Gita is from. The context, historical context. 27. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up." This looks like a good purport here for 28. Any man who has genuine devotion to the Lord has all the good qualities which are found in godly persons or in the demigods. Whereas the non-devotee, however advanced he may be in material qualifications by education and culture, lacks in godly qualities. As such, Arjuna, just after seeing his kinsmen, friends, and relatives on the battlefield, was at once overwhelmed by compassion for them who had so decided to fight amongst themselves. One thing I always muse about with the Gita and my own relationship with it is how ungodly I am, because if Krishna asked me to start murdering my demonic family members, I would just say, okay, great. I mean, can I get some ammo? Like, which kind of weapon should I use? Like, I would immediately just jump right into that, because I am not godly or saint-like in this sense at all. Of course, I wouldn't want to kill my good family members that are not demonic. But there's not that many of those, to be honest. I mean, most American white people are pretty bad. And anyway, as far as his soldiers were concerned, he was sympathetic from the beginning, but he felt compassion even for the soldiers of the opposite party, foreseeing their imminent death. And so, thinking the bodily symptoms happened, he was more or less astonished to see their fighting spirit. Practically the whole community, all blood relatives of Arjuna, had come to fight with him. This overwhelmed a kind devotee like Arjuna. Although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were his limbs quivering and mouth drying up, but he was also crying out of compassion. This is really important that Prabhupada mentions one can easily imagine. This is speculation. Which, when you do it correctly as an advanced devotee, guess what? It's totally fine. Because it's true. I mean, the thing is with speculation, as long as you stay within what I'll call the self-evident, you're not actually speculating, you're imagining. You're just like using your intelligence wisely, which is fine. And in this case, because we're dealing with Leela at the moment, pastimes, that is the correct way to enjoy pastimes. You vividly imagine what's going on. And sometimes in a text, it'll mention specific things like the limbs quivering and mouth drying up. And so once you imagine someone like Arjuna in this position, their limbs quivering and mouth drying up, there will also be other symptoms. to go alongside those, like increased heart rate. I mean, that one's hard to notice, but obviously there's other things happening in the body, which the more you can vividly imagine, the more you get into this, the more you're engaging in Lila Bhakti, as I would call it. I don't know if that's a real term or not, but that's what it is. Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but to his soft heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. It is said, therefore, in the Bhagavatam 5:18-12, one who has unflinching devotion for the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. But one who is not a devotee of the Lord has only material qualifications that are of little value. This is because he is hovering on the mental plane and is certain to be attracted by the glaring material energy. All right, 29. My whole body is trembling and my hair is standing on end. My bow, Gandiva, is slipping from my hand and my skin is burning. The burning skin I always thought was interesting. Let's see what the purport says. There are two kinds of trembling of the body and two kinds of standings of the hair on end. Such phenomena occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material conditions. This is obviously true if you have a psychology degree like myself. There is no fear in transcendental realization. I want to pick a bone with that. Transcendental realization, in my experience, does have some anxiety in it. Yeah, I wouldn't call it fear, but it's just so potent that your physical body is just going to get wrecked. And I think the first time I started having transcendental realizations, there was no fear at all, and it was just like really just sudden and just crazy. But these days for me, and this could be because I'm falling down, I think, man, that's just really going to mess me up. Well, my personal fear is getting arrested because that was close to what happened to me the last time. I was in a very ecstatic state of devotion. I just started talking about God all the time. Everyone I talked to, and no one could get me to shut up about this. And people were starting to get agitated, and they called the cops on me. I didn't get arrested, but I was close, and if I don't want that to happen again. I don't see how that can be good. I mean, but then again, as long as it comes from a state of devotion, it ultimately is good. And maybe in a minimum security jail, I can do much better preaching than I can here, which is actually probably true. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from other symptoms also. He was impatient, his bow was slipping from his hands, and because his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensation of the skin. All these are due to material conception of life. Okay, now it makes more sense. His heart was burning, and then that just kind of externalized to the skin as well. And a burning heart, that's definitely material. When you have a spiritual state of ecstasy, the heart will be very light. It won't be and it'll be warm. It won't be hot or cold. It'll be just warm and light. In my personal experience. But I'm sure you could find that in Shastra as well. 30. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself. My mind is reeling. I foresee only evil, O killer of the Keshi demon. This is very heartfelt words from Arjuna. Purport. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield, and he was forgetting himself on account of the weakness of his mind. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayam vityabhinivesataha. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only unhappiness in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The word nimitta is significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is supposed to show disregard for self interest by submission to the will of Krishna, who is everyone's real self interest. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. And we should all thank Arjuna for being forgetful in this way so that we can enjoy and hopefully take great use from this Bhagavad Gita, which would not have existed if Arjuna did not have this struggle inside of him, which is, by the way, what jihad means in Arabic. It means internal struggle. And that's Bhagavad Gita. It's about Arjuna's jihad. Allahu Akbar. 31. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Really long purport, which I kind of want to skip. Arjuna is basically saying the same thing anyway. But there's some good things here. Arjuna, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the kshatriya who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders, and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thought that by killing his kinsmen there would be no happiness in this life, and therefore he was not willing to fight. Just a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live a secluded life in frustration, but as a kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence, because the kshatriya cannot engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has had no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lay in fighting with his cousins and family and claiming that kingdom, which he does not like to do. Therefore, he considers himself fit to go into the forest to live a secluded life of frustration. This is definitely something I can relate with right at the moment. I just want to go into a cave and be alone, considering what's happening in the world with this pandemic. And some parts of my life are suffering. My physical body is getting much fatter because I'm just shoving food into my mouth because I don't care about the consequences of that. Because I don't see myself as a person in a decent society. I see myself as a decent person in an indecent society, and that's just miserable. So I feel like, what's the point? And this is kind of what Arjuna is going through. And we'll see if, as I keep reading this, if Krishna's arguments are persuasive in me as they are for Arjuna. We'll see. 32 to 35. O Govinda, of what avail to us our kingdoms, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed in this battlefield? Well, as Prabhupada just said in the last purport, what good are kingdoms? Well, you're a kshatriya. You're supposed to have a kingdom. This is just dharma. So Arjuna is forgetting the dharma, basic dharma, not sanatana dharma. Continue. Oh, Madhusudana. When teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and all relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, then why should I wish to kill them, though I may survive, O maintainer of all creatures? I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. So now he's going a little deeper into nihilism here. Towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, as a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, because they are also living entities, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. Interesting, it says the devotee does not retaliate against the wrongdoer. What if a devotee is a lawyer or judge, and it's their job kind of to do that? That could be, well, Prabhupada could rebut me by saying, well, retaliate is like a kind of vengeance, which is different from justice. And justice is fine, especially if you're a kshatriya. That's what I would say. 36. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune, and how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? Okay, good purport here. According to Vedic injunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors. 1, a poison giver. 2, one who sets fire to the house. 3, one who attacks with deadly weapons. 4, one who plunders riches. 5, one who occupies another's land. And 6, one who kidnaps a wife. Such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. Well, guess what? According to those injunctions, there are tons of people we could rightfully murder. Especially people at the top of society. And that is indeed what should be done. And this has not been happening at all for many decades in America, at least, perhaps more than a century. And so we are getting the sinful reaction of that. You can't give someone who's like a billionaire or a CEO of a big corporation, you can't give them a fine or even arrest them and give them a little jail sentence. They're going to get over that in a second. You have to kill them. If they're truly demonic and they are one of these 6 kinds of aggressors, you just have to kill them. That's what is commanded by God in different ways. Okay. Such killing of aggressors is quite befitting for any ordinary man. But Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He was saintly by character, and he wanted to deal with him in saintliness. But this is not for a kshatriya. Though a responsible man in the administration of a state is required to be saintly, he should not be cowardly. Interesting. So it's not a problem that Arjuna is saintly, it's that he's cowardly and forgetful of his dharma. Lord Ram, for example, was so saintly that people were anxious to live in his kingdom, Rama Rajya. But Lord Rama never showed any cowardice. Ravana was an aggressor, and he kidnapped Sita, but Lord Rama gave him sufficient lessons, unparalleled in the history of the world. That's true. In Arjuna's case, however, one should consider the special type of aggressors, namely his own family. Because of them, Arjuna thought he should not take the severe steps necessary against ordinary aggressors. Besides that, saintly persons are advised to forgive, and should be noted that I would say that a little stronger than Prabhupada. I would say saintly persons forgive by their nature. Ordinary people are advised to forgive. Saintly people actually do forgive because they're saintly. Um, Such injunctions, sorry, I didn't mean to correct Prabhupada. I just, like to stress certain points that others don't stress. I'm the ethos guy, remember. Such injunctions for saintly persons are more important than any political emergency. Interesting. Arjuna considered that rather than kill his own kinsmen for political reasons, it would be better to forgive them on grounds of religion and saintly behavior. He did not therefore consider such killing profitable simply for the matter of temporary bodily happiness. After all, kingdoms and pleasures derived therefrom are not permanent. So why should he risk his life and salvation by killing his own kinsmen? Moving on, 37 to 38. O Janardana, although these men overtaken by greed see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, with knowledge of the sin, engage in these acts? 39. With the destruction of dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligious. Protected by men, by their women should be protected by their brothers, their husbands, their fathers, and their sons as well. And when they're not protected, when in one sense that can mean having too much independence, because independence means you protect yourself, which a woman should not do. And it's actually, if you're a woman listening to this and you're honest with yourself, you'll know that you don't want to protect yourself. You want to have a big, strong man who's like just gonna do everything for you. You want that to happen. It's like kind of an obvious thing. Um, I don't know how Arjuna went straight to the woman aspect from the previous thing. It could be because of his saintly character, and he's immediately jumping to one of the most important aspects of family, which is the women. They are where life comes from, and they raise the children, and they maintain the household. They do all these important things for the family. Prabhupada says, such good population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. Depends. Keyword depends. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by the elders. By being engaged in various religious practices, women will not be misled into adultery. I think adultery is just one problem among many that can happen that we're seeing right now in modern Western culture. According to Chanaka Pandit, women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. So, the different family traditions of religious activities should always engage them, and thus their chastity and devotion will give birth to a good population eligible for participating in the Varnashram system. I immediately thought of myself when reading this about um, traditions and activities should always engage them, and thus they'll have chastity and devotion. That's true for me too. Um, Idle hands are the devil's worship, basically. Um, we all need to be engaged as much as possible in something transcendental, or at least sattvic. At least do something sattvic in your life, like regularly. Otherwise, you will suffer. Even people in sattvic guna suffer, but it's not a bad suffering. It's very tolerable. But if you're living in tamaguna with no God, with nothing transcendental in your life, which many people are in today's world, that's only suffering. That's all it is. It's just suffering. On the failure of Varnashram Dharma, the women become free to act and mix with men. Thus, adultery is indulged, and irresponsible men also provoke adultery in society. That is so utterly common in America now. In the media, and first, I think first it was the media by showing these like dirty, like sexually infested male characters like Homer Simpson, and just like even way before that too, womanizers that are glorified in Hollywood, and then all of a sudden men actually became that. Baby boomers are a lot like that, with Bill Clinton and so many others. They're just like obsessed with the pussy. Thus, unwanted children flood the human race at the risk of war and pestilence. Number 41. When there is increase of unwanted population, a hellish situation is created, both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. In such corrupt families, there is no offering of oblations of food and water to the ancestors. Do you remember the last time it was common in the Western world to offer oblations of food and water to the ancestors? How many centuries ago was that? How many? At least 500 years ago. At least. Probably more than that. I mean, there's still some people doing it today, probably in South America and other places, but as far as being common to do that, you're looking at centuries, maybe thousands of years. We are very degraded. Can't even take care of our families. Those, I'm skipping ahead in the purport. Those who are not in devotional life are required to perform such rituals, but those engaged in devotional life are not required to perform those, because by just devotion to Krishna, all of the ancestors are taken care of. Everything else is taken care of, period. 42. Due to the evil deeds of the destroyers of family tradition, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. More to say. 43. O Krishna, maintainer of the people. Great. Great title for Krishna, maintainer of the people. I have heard by vote for Krishna for president. I have heard by disciplic succession that those who destroy family traditions dwell always in hell. Oh man. I hope that's self-evident to everyone here. Oh, let me check the Shastra about that. If that's not self-evident to you, you are very degrading. 44. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts, driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness. That's a really unfair thing Arjuna says there, because it's not true. These are not sinful acts. They are condoned by Krishna himself, and they are within the principles of Dharma. And Arjuna is thinking the only way he could justify these is by enjoying royal happiness, and that's not what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to do it just because it's his duty and because the Lord himself is commanding him to do that. really small purport. We'll skip 45. I would consider it better for the sons of Dhritarashtra to kill me unarmed and unresisting rather than fight with me. That's now he's going real deeper into depression slash nihilism. Kshatriya has to fight, and an unarmed and unwilling foe should not be attacked. But Arjuna, in an enigmatic position, decided he would not fight even if he were attacked. And all these symptoms are due to soft-heartedness resulting from his being a great devotee of the Lord. 46. Sanjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. Purport. While observing the situation of his enemy, Arjuna stood up on the chariot, but he was so afflicted with lamentation that he sat down again, setting aside his bow and arrows. Such a kind and soft-hearted person in the devotional service of the Lord is fit to receive self-knowledge. End of chapter 1. Next time we will continue with chapter 2. Thanks for coming. See you next time. Hare Krishna.